The energy of 2026, year of the young fire horse, it is intense, it is fast. Because it is governed by the fire energy, it will magnify everything. Your strength, your shadows, your alignment, your misalignment. What is aligned becomes brilliant. What is misaligned becomes impossible to ignore. And what has been buried beneath the surface, this fire will bring it to light. So this is definitely not a year for pretending. Welcome to Dripping Water Pierces Stone, a podcast for seekers and intuitives to relax, receive, and remember the ancient wisdom. Like a water shaping stone, where gentle power, quiet strength can lead to deep transformation. I am Grace New, intuitive guide and feng shui master. Let's begin. Welcome back to this episode of Dripping Water Pierces Stone. So in this episode, we're going to continue exploring how we can best navigate the powerful, fast-moving energy of 2026, Year of the Horse. In the last episode, episode 38, I laid out the collective pattern, the big picture energy of the Year of the Horse, and the 4 specific places that you absolutely need to avoid during the intense fire energy. So if you haven't listened to that one, I'd encourage you to start there to understand this broader environment, the universal energy, to understand the terrain on how you can navigate this from the broader perspective. And today, we're going to dive even deeper on a personal level. But before we even attempt to answer the obvious questions that everyone is asking, such as, what is my sacred mission for this year? Or what is the right strategy for 2026? And I want to start with something far more fundamental, far more important. So if you are like an arrow drawn back, sending yourself hurtling forward into the year, into the finishing line, I would encourage you to take a deep breath and have a pulse, because the question I'm going to ask you is going to set the tone for the entire year. And this is the question, when answered honestly, will change your entire trajectory on how you navigate, how you move through year of the 2026. So here it is. And this is a question I want to ask you. What season are you in? This is not the season outside your window. It is not the season that you circle on your calendar, but the season of you. It is about the season of your innate energy, the season of your life path. Where are you in your entire life trajectories? 5-year luck pillar, 10-year luck pillar in your destiny chart. Do you have a clarity on that? This is the season of your creativity. Where are you at? It's a season of your destiny. It is not the season that you wish you were in. Not the season that your expectation placed upon. It's not the season determined by your friend or your competitors or your parents expect you to be, but the season that you truly are, in accordance to your cosmic blueprint, in accordance to your innate energy compensation right now. Because here is the truth. The energy of 2026, year of the young fire horse, it is intense, it is fast. because it is governed by the fire energy, it will magnify everything. Your strength, your shadows, your alignment, your misalignment. What is aligned becomes brilliant. What is misaligned becomes impossible to ignore. And what has been buried beneath the surface, this fire will bring it to light. So this is definitely not a year for pretending. This is the year where everything true about you, the light and the shadow, the gifts and the wounds, will be amplified, for better or for worse. And this is where, if you enter this intensity without knowing truly where you are in your life, where you are in your creativity, where you are in your innate energy rhythm, without knowing your season, you will react instead of respond. You will chase instead of making choices. You will burn out instead of breaking through. So this is where that we're going to take this time together to ask this question tenderly and let it land this time. What season are you in? Because the answer to this question will also help you to decide whether you should be accelerating or slowing down in 2026, whether you should be stepping forward into the spotlight, or it is time to take a break, whether your energy is meant to flow outwardly into the world, into visibility and expression, or inwardly into rest, into reflection, into the quiet work that no one sees but everything depends on. Whether this is the year to say yes to opportunities, to invitations, to the unknown, or a year to say no, to protect your boundaries, to guard your peace, or to preserve what matters most. Because for some of you, 2026 is going to be your destiny's turning point. The year breakthroughs finally happen. Opportunities show up at exactly the right moment. Nobleman appears. Your entire life is elevated as a result. Well, for others, it might feel complete opposite. And these are not moral choices. These are not good or bad, right or wrong. They are about alignment. They are about moving with the rhythm of your cosmic blueprint, your energy, your own destiny instead of against it. And in the past 2 months, I've done almost 100 sessions helping clients just like you mapping out 2026 strategies through their innate destiny chart. And I see this clear pattern emerging, that there will be these two main types of experiences in 2026 that may feel polar opposite. So it is so important for you to remember that 2026 in particular is not a year for comparison. And the reason for people who may experience 2026 vastly different, literally coming down to one factor alone. And that depends on their energetic season and where they are in the rhythm of their own destiny chart. And when you think about the season of your energy, the season of your creativity, your life path, your very essence, I invite you to think about the 4 seasons in the natural world. Think about the yin and yang, the dance of dark and light, the masculine and the feminine, the inhale and the exhale of the breath. And this is precisely what I want to show you in this episode, how you can deduce your energetic season through your innate destiny chart. And I want to share 3 simple but powerful key criteria that you can review your chart yourself. So it will become so clear to you whether 2026 is going to be your year to accelerate or it is time for you to go inward. And I think many of you intuitively have already felt this. And many clients have shared this with me, that they felt the clouds are parting as soon as the 4th of February 2026 arrived. The sun is finally coming out. They can feel in their bones that something is different. And this is particularly so if for the past 5 or 6 years, things has been difficult. You feel you've been weathering it, enduring it, and wondering when things is going to change, when it's going to be your break. And if you feel that for the past couple of weeks, since February arrived, you feel the warmth. Even things physically has not manifesting into anything concrete, but you can feel this, something beautiful, something illuminating is about to come. And you belongs to this first group that I call is the accelerator, that you're about to embrace this young and masculine energy. Your time has just arrived because you are entering the summer of your creative season. Well, for some of you, you are being called underground. 2026 is not asking you for output, for creative expression, but something deeper. Not because you failed, not because you're falling behind, but because something deep beneath the surface needs your attention. It is time for you to tending the soil, strengthening roots, restoring and replenishing your resources. While the accelerators are reaching for the sun, you are reaching for the depth. You are going inward. And both are sacred. Both are necessary. Both are exactly what the season requires. So for the rest of this episode, I would invite you to bring your curiosity, bring your willingness to see the truth of what season you are in, bring your chart, but leave a comparison at the door. Because you are not a machine. You are not meant to produce at the same rate, in the same way, year after year. You are a living thing, and living things have seasons. Now let's dive into the strategic part of this episode, where I'm going to walk you through 3 specific criteria in your destiny chart that will tell you with clarity what season you are in during 2026. Let's start with the first one. The first criteria's purpose is to determine whether your destiny chart contains predominantly yin energy or yang energy. So let's look at this together. And if you have the chart in front of you, you will notice the natal chart contains altogether 8 elements. 4 are on top, 4 at the bottom. The top one called heavenly stem, the bottom 4 called earthly branches, and the heavenly stem and earthly branches made up your cosmic blueprint. Each single element in your natal chart carries either yin or yang energy. So the first criteria, and I want you to do, is to calculate out of the 8 elements in your destiny chart, how many are yin and how many are yang. And if you have 6 or more elements are yin, then without me even personally looking at your individual chart, it is highly likely that your chart contains more yin energy. And on the other hand, if you have 6 or more out of the 8 elements are yang, then chances are your chart contains more yang energy. So feel free to press the pause button and calculate how many in your destiny chart are yin and how many are yang. And once you know the number, once you gain the clarity of this, the annual strategy becomes clear already. And as we all know now, 2026 contains extremely yang energy. Both heavenly stem and earthly branches are yang fire. It is masculine, active, outward, and explosive. Now let's say if you discover that your chart contains extremely yang energy, you are walking into this year already energetically charged, already at a full capacity. And if you're not aware of this and you continue to run with your natural tendency to push, to charge forward, to say yes to everything and take on more and move faster, then you are adding fuel to an already blazing fire. And this is where you need to be extra careful. In 2026, you are not meant to accelerate harder. You are meant to channel it and to soften this with the yin energy. And for some of us, this is hard. Slowing down proves to be so much harder than speeding up. But the energetic wisdom is clear. The most grounded wisdom is to intentionally inviting yin energy into your life. You are being called into the season of winter, the season of yin. The yin qualities means stillness, receptivity, rest, introspective. And these are not weakness in a yang year. This is a aligned strategy and action. They will keep you from burning into ashes. And here are 5 things that you can do to support this strategy. Number 1, schedule rest like you schedule meetings and make it non-negotiable. Number 2, create moments of stillness in every day, even 5 minutes of doing nothing. Number 3, say no more often than you say yes. Be selective, be discerning, and be protective of your energy. Number 4, build in time alone, time in nature, time away from stimulation. And number 5, when that voice inside of you says, but I should be doing more, moving faster, look at everyone else taking advantage of this energy, I'd like you to remind yourself that your season is yours alone. And when you know this, you stop running someone else's race. And that is freedom. So, on the other hand, if your chart leans more towards yin-dominant energy, then 2026 will feel more invigorating for you. Because your chart has more capacity to absorb this yang energy. And your strategy could be finally step out of the shadow and into the light. So here's your first clue, first criteria. Yin or yang, adding fuel to the fire or receiving this heavenly sunlight that you've been waiting for. The second criteria is to ascertain the energetic temperature of your destiny chart. And this criteria builds on the first one. Now I want you to look at your chart and assess its overall energetic temperature. Is it hot or is it cold? Or is it somewhere in between? In order to do this, you need a little bit of understanding of the attribute of the 5 elements. Based on the 5-element theory, that the wood and fire element generally will provide more warmth. Its energetic temperature is likely to be warm or hot. On the other hand, metal and water element tend to have a cooler or cold energetic temperature. So if your chart has a lot of fire or wood, and this is a strong indication that your chart's natural temperature runs hot already. And in 2026, a hot chart is one that is already active, already intense, already generating its own momentum. And if your chart has a lot of metal or water, then the natural temperature of your destiny chart is likely to be more cool or even cold. A cool chart, just like the yin chart, would have more capacity to absorb and balance the intense fire. And in a year dominated by yang fire, a cool chart is an advantage. So here is your second criteria. What is the energetic temperature of your chart, hot or cold? And based on that, you'll be able to answer what season are you in. Now, before we dive into the last criteria or marker, you might notice that out of the 5 elements, the only one that I didn't mention is the earth element. And when it comes to gauge the energetic temperature, the earth element can play a magical role depends on surrounding element in your chart. For example, if your chart has the excessive yang energy or contains a lot of wood or fire energy, earth element can serve as a channel to drain or exhaust the fire energy. On the other hand, if your chart contains a lot of metal or water element and the temperature is relatively cold, the earth can serve as an insulator to protect, to maintain a certain level of warmth and heat. So in 2026, earth is a very interesting element that you can play with. And interestingly enough, I am seeing this also being reflected in the fashion world, where some of the major brands and top designers are bringing out the latest collection, mostly in the earthy tones and ranging from warm neutrals, sandy beiges, to a slightly darker shade such as terracotta, desert sun, clay, because colors like this in a fire-strong year can feel like very grounding, very stabilizing. And I've noticed this myself, although usually the neutral tone is not something I particularly go for. But since the start of 2026, I've been drawn to a lot of neutral colors. So it depends on the energetic temperature within your chart or whether your chart is more yin or yang. You can certainly use this technique. Use the beautiful neutral essence of the earth to bring back the balance within your destiny chart. And this doesn't have to be limited through the color you wear, but also you can surround yourself with the materials or substance in your home that is made of the earth element. Criteria 3. So hopefully by now, most of you would have a pretty clear idea whether your chart is predominantly yin or yang, and whether the energetic temperature is hot or cold. And this third criteria will add another layer of clarity to help you determine your overall energetic season in 2026. And this is where we're going to look at the month you were born. In Chinese astrology, the winter months are considered to be December, January, and February. The summer months are May, June, and July. And of course, there is also the transitional seasons in between, but for the purpose of this episode, we're going to only focus on the two ends of the spectrum. And the rest, you should be able to work it out yourself, because this should give you a very clear signal of where you're at. So if your chart has already contains a predominant yin energy, and you also have certain amount of metal or water energy, and you're also born in the winter month of December, January, or February, and this would further add more coolness or coldness overall on your chart. For example, a yin wood or a yin water person born in a winter month such as December or January, the water in their charts is so cold it is literally frozen. Therefore, 2026, the strong fire is exactly what they need, because this intense fire will melt the water. It will sustain the growth of the wood or make the yin water person feels more alive, more energetically refreshed, invigorated. And on the other hand, if your chart contains a lot of wood and fire energy, and there is also a predominant yang energy happening there, and you also happen to be born during the summer months around May, June, or July, this will add another layer of the heat on your energetic temperature. So this third criteria will either further reinforce your gauge, your strategy, or it might help you to dial down the temperature. Let's say if a fire person who are born in the winter month, and this will reduce the high temperature in their chart, and this will neutralize and balance their overall energetic temperature. So you need to adjust your strategy accordingly. I hope this is making sense. And just to confuse you even more, and I want to address for those people who live in the southern hemisphere. And when it comes to the criteria 3, I want to emphasize, even you're born in Australia, let's say, or New Zealand, and the summer and winter obviously is reversed, and we are talking about the energetic season. So if you were born in Australia during the month of December, January, and February, these are still considered the winter month. And if you were born during the month of May, June, or July, these are still the month considered as a summer month. So adjust the temperature accordingly. So before we close this episode, let's summarize these 3 criteria. Number 1 is to ascertain whether your chart is predominantly yin or yang. The criteria number 2 is to gauge the energetic temperature of your chart. The third criteria is to reinforce your gauge, your strategy through the month you're born. And it will help you to gain more clarity whether your overall 2026 strategy is to strive forward or that you need to adjust the speed accordingly. As I mentioned earlier in the episode, that these 3 criteria are designed especially for those of you whose chart sits at the 2 ends of the spectrum. And once you apply this, you should gain an immediate clarity what your chart fall into. Whether it is the extremely young chart, also running a very hot energetic temperature. And you may also born in summer, right? Or on the other hand, that you might fall into the extremely yin group, yin chart, running very cold, and happen to be born in winter. In fact, if you fulfill 2 out of 3 criteria, you should already know whether your chart belongs to the extremely young group or the extremely yin group. Okay, this is where I mentioned you're the ones who are going to have a very distinct experience during 2026. And for you, knowing this, in order to have a solid strategy moving forward is essential. And for the group that what I called the accelerator, where your chart is extremely yin, running cold, born in winter, this is your time. And this warm and sunny period is a window. So be aware of it. You needn't rush, but also don't miss out on this precious period of time in your life. On the other hand, if you belong to the group that really need to dive inward, go underground, doing some deep work, this is a time for you to slow down against your impulse. Adjust your speed, adjust your sail before you're sailing into the wild sea. And for the rest of us, we might fall somewhere in the middle. If you apply these 3 criteria and your strategy for 2026 is not immediately clear, then you might fall into the category where chances are your chart sit somewhere in the middle. Not extremely hot and not extremely cold. So this is where I would say that to do a bespoke destiny chart activation at the start of the year becomes invaluable. And this is where I dedicated my one-on-one session to my client for the past 3 months, is to help them to map out the yearly strategy. And when it comes to the professional destiny chart activation, I certainly do not just counting the elements, okay? I don't just look at them individually. We look at the complex pattern, the correlations and the interrelationship between each element, and how they respond, how they interact with each other, clash, combine, destruction, and special configurations. So I look at all this, and usually I ask my client to close their eyes, and I will give them what I call the picture of your life. I describe this to you. It's a reflection of your energy through the lens of the 5 elements in the natural world. And this is where I identify what is your favorable element, whether you are this majestic mountain that has this beautiful rainforest, but the overall temperature could run cold and damp. You're lacking the sunlight, you're lacking this stream of beautiful water to attract the tourist. And this is where we discover your favorable element. And we'll explore how you can initiate certain energies even if your innate chart doesn't carry them. And we find the entry point and how we can invite this energy when you need most. And when you truly understand your destiny chart, your innate cosmic blueprint, you stop guessing. You know precisely what the yearly energy is asking you for, is calling you for, which direction the wind blows. So when you sail into the wild sea, you have the wind on your sails. You don't go against the current. You don't waste your energy and time. And you are moving with the rhythm that your destiny chart already mapped out for you. And this is where I say the alignment, the direction is always more important than speed. So I wish for you a 2026 where you move at a speed that is truly yours, no matter what season you are in. Where you honor your rhythm, trust your timing, and release the pressure to be anywhere other than where you are. And may you look back on this year with gratitude for what you become. I will see you next time.